Hello and welcome to Pisces Moon Astrology. I'm your astrologer, Kait Leonard, and I'm excited to explore the stars with you. Hi everyone. Welcome to the week of February 9th through February 15th, and you know what that means. We are talking about Valentine's Day. How could we not? Really, how could we not? And I want to thank you all for hanging out and being here. I am so sorry that I missed last week. I had to travel for a project and just couldn't make the episode for last week happen, so I'm sorry about that. I am super happy to be back because even though we're a small community, I miss y'all when you're not part of my life. So I'm really happy to be back. So let's talk about Valentine's Day, shall we? Venus and Valentine's Day. Pretty big. However, you know what I'm going to say, really complex. Before we actually go into Venus, which is going to be the focus of this episode, I did want to just tell you some of the other things that you might want to be on the lookout for this week. Mercury goes cazimi. That means it's exactly conjunct with the sun. They call it in the heart of the sun on the 9th. That's going to bring about inspired new ideas. However, when a planet is cazimi, we don't see exactly what the gifts of that cazimi are going to be until the planet becomes visible again, okay? So it's not like on that day we will understand this great inspiration that's coming our way. But trust me, it is coming our way. Retrograding Mars is going to trine Saturn also on February 9th. That is going to bring some energies for us to go in and redo, because of retrograde, right? Redo something that's foundational in our lives. So look to see what house that's hitting. We've got Mercury squaring Uranus on the 10th. That is outside the box thinking. So get ready for some kind of ideas or communications or even some travel plans that come out of the blue, right? And then the last thing I'm going to mention is the Sun squaring Uranus on the 11th. Now, this is rebel energy. The Sun is our will, our ego, our out there self, and Uranus is the rebel. So we've just had Mercury square Uranus. We go right into the Sun squaring Uranus. So I'm thinking some rebel kind of stuff is going to go down, all right? So anyway, those are the things I'm not talking about. Ready to get into Venus and Valentine's Day? I bet you are. All right, so for Valentine's Day, Venus is still going to be in Aries. Now, this is not new. She didn't just enter Aries, but I do think it's significant that that's where she's going to be for Valentine's Day because, of course, we always think of Valentine's Day as like, I'm for you and you're for me and couples we will always be. I just made that up. That was terrible, right? But you get what I'm saying. However, Aries is the me sign, right? It is sometimes called, and I always call it, the toddler of the zodiac. I want what I want it now. If I could have it yesterday, I want it then. Remember, it's ruled by Mars. And Aries might be a little bit wonky right now because Mars, its ruler, is retrograde over in emotional Cancer. That's where Venus is sitting, inside this toddler Aries thing going on. So let's put this together. And then there's a whole lot more to add into it. But I want to remind you even about Venus. It's Valentine's Day. So we're talking about love, romance, relationships, all of that. Of course, Venus always rules those kind of issues. But please don't forget, if you're like, you know what, Kait, I'm just not into a relationship right now. That's not what I'm about. And you're totally excluding me from this episode. No, I am not. Venus rules money, art, comfort, beauty, leisure activities, indulgences that make us feel good. Now, I will give you a warning right now. Venus rules indulgence. Like, for example, she rules things like sugar cravings, and Aries is the toddler. Do you see how that could not be a super good thing? Right? Venus is almost always good, but I do have to say I have a Venus ruled chart, so I feel this firsthand, I promise you. Venus will give you some sugar cravings like crazy. And while she's in Aries, you're not going to like put self discipline on the situation, right? It's going to be like, I want it. And Venus is like, yeah, yummy. And you're going to eat the sugar. So just know that nothing, no cosmic aspect is only good or only bad. Even our beautiful Venus can bring about some, weight gain and acne. That's what she can bring about. Anyway, I'm not expecting that this time around to be like the primary thing. So we will move on. I just wanted to toss that out there. Two things happen during these transits. Venus is always about love and relationships and those kinds of things. So that energy is kind of available to all of us. But the very specific energy that's intended for each of us has to do with the house topics, in this case, of where Aries is, right? So if it's fourth house, this is going to have something to do with family dynamics. 10th house, something to do with career. 11th house, friends. 5th house, art, creativity, or children. So we do have that general kind of love thing going on, but do look at where Aries falls in your chart because that's going to give you more information. Now, if Aries is your 7th house sign, the 7th house is primary partnership, marriage, that kind of thing, right? So then for you, Valentine's Day is going to be truly Valentine's Day, right? It is going to be about you, your partner, your relationship. So do take that into account. And I've probably said enough already about Aries to kind of remind you of that energy, but just know, I mean, as a Mars-ruled sign, this is independence, willfulness, impetuosity, right? So Aries is really outgoing, but not so much a think about things first. So what does that mean when we're talking about Venus and relationship and all things Valentine's Day? We may be just blurting out in the most interesting, awkward, random moment. It may be like we're sitting there in a business meeting. We look over at whoever it is across from us and go, I love you. Let's go on a date or whatever, right? There's this Aries, just sort of go for it, blurt it out, get it out there, fiery energy. Venus, love, right? And it's just, the Aries factor in it is going to mean like we're not necessarily considering things so carefully before we're just like announcing it to the world, right? That could be great. That could be fantastic because sometimes what we need to do is get out of our own way and tell that other person like, hey, dude, girl, whatever, I'm into you. Let's go, whatever it is, eat a box of chocolates. I don't know. Use your imagination. You know what you want to go do. But, it's true too that while that's sometimes good, it's sometimes not. Also, keep in mind, we're all under the same sky, right? So we may be blurting out stuff, Venusian kinds of things, but the truth of it is that everybody else may be blurting it at us. So depending on how your chart is configured, you may be the blurt-er or the blurt-e. You may be the one on the receiving end of it. So if suddenly that person out of nowhere is just, asking you out or confessing his or her love or whatever it is, don't be too surprised because that's the week we're in and that's the Valentine's Day we're having. I love it in a way. I love it that it's really like that Cupid's arrow thing, right? It's like those classic old cartoons. I don't know, y'all probably aren't old enough to remember these, where this little flying Cupid with his little bow and arrow would just randomly, be flying around and shoot people. And then hearts would start coming out of their eyeballs and stuff like that. It's kind of that kind of a Valentine's Day, or at least has the potential to be. All right. So all of that sounds fun and all, yeah? in that kind of way. The problem is what happens after the blurting, right? How is this going to end up? Are we going to blurt out these true feelings that we have and then we're going to, live happily ever after? Mm, maybe. Okay, I'm not ruling it out, so don't get discouraged yet. But I do want to point out some things that maybe, okay? For one, Venus in Aries is in what's called her detriment. This is not a great sign for her. I mean, it's ruled by Mars, which is like the opposite energy of Venus. So while Venus, who wants everything to just be smooth and beautiful and lovely, she's in the sign of the war god, where things are fiery and hot and fast, and she just doesn't settle so easily there. So that makes her not quite as strong as we would like her to be. And as I already said, the other thing is the ruler of that sign is retrograding in a sign that he doesn't like to be in, right? So Mars is still in his retrograde at this point. You know how difficult that has been for how long now? Like it seems like forever, right? And he's in Cancer, which is emotional. So, could there be some kind of weird moodiness that comes after this blurting? Maybe. And it's a loose square that Venus and Mars are making, but even their aspect to each other is not smooth sailing. So, it's not perfect. All right. I don't it's easy to be very lighthearted about this whole Valentine's Day Cupid thing, but it's not a perfect configuration. So does that mean it's going to be a disaster? No. I promise you no. It could be. I can't promise you that it's impossible that this will turn out badly, but hold on, there's a whole lot more to this picture. So it's not so easy. All right, so the other piece of this picture, and this is the much better piece, Venus is also going to be sextiling, and that's a positive aspect, but it's a minor positive aspect, okay? But still, we'll take it, won't we? Because she's aspecting Jupiter, the greater benefic, expansive, lucky Jupiter. So this is Venus, the lesser benefic, making a positive aspect to Jupiter, the greater benefic. This is super good. The greater and lesser benefics always tend to be positive, and they're positive. They're in a positive aspect. It's not exact, but it's there. And so I do think that that's bringing a little bit of luck. I think that's bringing a little bit of luck. And Jupiter's in Gemini, so that's a social sign. That's a sign about communication and talking and socializing. So after all the blurting happens, if things seem a little dicey after that, and it's like, somebody's moody, or I don't know how this is really going, or I'm not reading the signs aren't so clear, because remember, Mars is retrograde and in water. So there could be sort of a lack of clarity afterwards, like, oh, does he or she hate me now that I said that? I mean, did I make a mistake? Was that a bad move to make? Talk about it. Talk about it. If possible, talk about it, because Jupiter's in that very social sign of Gemini, and Gemini really likes to talk. So talk it out. Maybe not right this minute, maybe, feel it out a little bit. Maybe you want to give it a second, whatever. But ultimately, if things aren't seeming perfect or you're a little worried about it, have conversation, okay? And also, Gemini just likes to have fun, right? They just like to go out and have fun. So if things get too heavy and you're feeling like you're not sure how your profession of, is that the right word? Profession? Yes. How your profession of love landed, then go out and have some fun. Let it go for a minute and go out and have a drink, go dancing. And then when things get right, have a conversation. All right. Does that make sense? I hope so. Oh, one other thing about Jupiter. Remember I was saying about Venus, like she's always great, except, when she's giving you those sugar cravings that make you all fat and everything. Above and beyond everything else, good, bad, or indifferent, Jupiter makes things bigger. It expands things. So Jupiter is not even though it's known as the greater benefic, it is not always good. It makes things big. So if things are going badly, if now is not the right moment to talk, let it go. Please let it go, because Jupiter does have that ability to kind of just blow things up really big. So if it's not going well, go have some fun, lighten the mood, use that Gemini quality. Don't just let bad situations get big. Does that make sense? All right. So I just wanted to throw that in there because I know everybody, Jupiter is a positive planet. And I know the ancients did call it the greater benefic and all, but I've seen those times when it's not so good to make something big. Anywho, moving on from that. Now, here's the big issue. And I know I've said big too many times, but here is a big issue. On March 1st, Venus is going to go retrograde. So keep in mind that whatever gets put in motion at this time, it's not done. It's not done. Good, bad, or indifferent, I promise you, it is not done. So, if you go through this period of time where you blurt out your mad, passionate love for each other and everything's going just super good and you're dancing all the time and you're having a wonderful Jupiter bash of it all, and then things get moody and cranky and weird, remember Mars is involved, don't panic. Do not panic. This story is not over. Not by a long shot is this story over, okay? So just know that it's going to have, whatever gets set in motion, it's going to have that retrograde as part of its story. If it goes a little wonky, it's going to come back. You're not finished. There are more chapters in this story, right? If it's going super good, don't freak if you get a little ways down the road and you're like, oh, wow, I know I totally said I'd marry Mr. or Ms. Wonderful, and now I'm having second thoughts. Right, Venus retrograde, right? So there can be all of this back and forth with it. And yeah, it's not over till it's over. So let me just give you some dates. So at least know that you're going to be doing the back and forth, or it's not always back and forth, but twists and turns in the road. You know what I'm saying? Until at least April 13th, when Venus turns direct. And she's going to leave Aries, go back into Pisces, and turn direct in Pisces and come back through Aries. So there's a whole lot going on. And maybe I'll do another episode just about in fact, it's almost for sure. I will do another episode on the Venus retrograde as we get closer to it with all the shadow dates and all of that. I'll get that stuff for you. But she turns direct on April 13th. That right there is going to be a better thing because you're going to have gone through all the twisty-turny weird stuff, and she's going to be going direct, and you're going to get a sense now of how is this thing all actually playing out. I'm actually going to like it best when Venus leaves Aries for good on June 7th. So that is super good. All right. Hang out there until June 7th. When she leaves Aries, the sign of her detriment, she goes into Taurus, a sign that she rules and becomes the queen on her throne in her own kingdom. So whatever's going on from June 7th on, that is Venus at her best. So it's like from now till summer, the beginning of summer, it seems like a really long time, right? But you got this. We're going to be playing this Venus game, or that's not exactly right. I hate to call it a game, but we're going to be on this path of Venus, and it is not going to be a straight path. Why do I tell you guys this stuff? I honestly do not say this to be the Valentine's Day bummer. I just want you to remember when all of the love life stuff, and keep in mind, this could be art stuff, money stuff, any kind of relationships, especially with women, sisters, but Venus rules friendships, family, any relationship, right? So when whatever it is in your life starts going a little bit haywire, do not give up hope. That's just part of this story. Okay, that is just part of this story. Follow the path. What is that? Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. In June, things are like smooth sailing and beautiful for Venus. All right. So we just have to kind of, follow the yellow brick road until then. Okay. So whatever this week brings for you, good or bad, you might be like, nah, that's not going to happen to me, Kate. My Valentine's Day was stupendous. Might be, but I promise you, it's not going to just be smooth sailing. So whether yours goes well or not as well as you'd like, just know that it's all part of a story and it's happening and it's coming together and it is going to work out well. Not fast, maybe. I wish it were going to work out well and fast, but I don't think so. But I do see really good Venus stuff ahead on the other side of this retrograde story. All right. So, as always, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing the podcast. It helps me more than I can even tell you. You guys can get me out there and help other people to find my work in a way that I can't do by myself. So I'm super grateful. Please come over to Substack. It's totally free. I don't bombard you with any kind of like emails or anything. It's just a really good place to talk to me and get a quicker feedback. And I'm Pisces Moon Astrology. The website is online. The link is below, and you can see my prices and services and all of that. I would love to read for you guys. And with all of that, happy Valentine's Day, everyone. And until next week, go out and seize the energies of the stars. This is my wish for you always. And a happy, wonderful Valentine's Day as well. All right, till next week. Bye.